DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right, we are back, and this time we are there for sure. Sorry about that. For those of you who are watching the original link, it just would not switch over, and I didn't catch that before we went live. So, Tom, we're back.
John.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Great to be here.
Yes. Now we're going to go. We can
All right.
We can talk. So we're going to talk Mobile Beat Las Vegas once again, ladies and gentlemen. And the links in the description are all messed up. We're according to the title, we're talking about NAMM, because that's what it was set up for. But we'll fix all that. You guys won't see any of that if you're watching this like tomorrow. You won't know that this was a mess, and we're going to go forward with it. So MobileBeatLasVegas.com is the website. Go there, click on the schedule, check it out, because Tom is going to be speaking at this year's show. Tom, give us a time. When are you going to be speaking this year?
Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. And you're going to be talking about wedding toast.
Well, actually, no. I'm going to be talking about, the topic is actually toast health.
Toast health?
The topic is toast health.
Well, that's a little bit different. Kind of tell me what that's about.
Yeah,
I'm so used to you being the wedding toast.
I didn't realize you didn't know that. So I did write a book about wedding toasts and how to make a wedding toast, and I've talked about that at several different Mobile Beats. But last year, I spoke at Mobile Beat, and I concluded my presentation. It was 50 ways to build your business, and I finished the presentation with some thoughts on what DJs can do to work on their health. Some tips, some kind of unique things I've done over the years to be healthier and fitter. And I talked about that. And after the presentation, I got a lot of really good feedback from people. So I talked to Ryan. I said, I think this could be a good little presentation to talk about what DJs, what performers, wedding people could do to, again, be healthier, fitter, have more energy. And so that's really what the presentation's about. But I'm happy to talk to you about wedding toasts or whatever you want to talk, John.
Well, I guess I was just going by the notes that I was given, and unfortunately, I didn't dig into that far enough. So you're going to be really speaking and looking at a healthy lifestyle for a mobile entertainer.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, and to put it in a little perspective on that, I've been to Mobile Beat numerous times, and I've met a lot of the people that attend on a regular basis. And, there's some really fit, healthy people there, guys like Mike Walter and Marcello and Joe Bunn and other guys like that. And then there's some other people that are not necessarily so fit and so healthy. And we've talked about what, I've done over the years to get healthier and fitter. I've had some health issues over the years as well.
Sure.
And I've learned from those. And so I'm going to talk about everything from, what people can do to work on their nutrition, what they put in their body, fitness tips, what they can do to prepare themselves prior to going on, relaxation techniques I've used, what they can do to come down from a show. I've seen a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I've done this myself. You come off a gig and you're really wound up and you're buzzed. And the way you come down is not always necessarily the healthiest way. A lot of fast food involved for a lot of people, a lot of drinking and alcohol, other things like that. So we're just going to talk about some healthy things that I've learned that have helped me to be a little fitter, a little healthier.
Right.
I'm going to turn 60 in a month.
Wow.
And I'm still kicking. I'm still doing pretty good. I still play competitive ice hockey with a bunch of guys that are, half my age. I play tennis, golf, I ride my bike. I do a lot of sports. And, for me, fitness is just a way that I can better enjoy those things. It's not about having the Marcello abs. It's about being able to do the things I like to do,
Right.
Whether it's hitting a golf ball or playing tennis or just feeling better, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about at Mobile Beat.
And I think that's an area that a lot of us, as we're getting 40 plus years old, realize that, wait a second, we have to take better care of our bodies, because we just don't just all of a sudden, oh yeah, we can do that. No. If we just all of a sudden jump into something, we're going to be hurting unless we are taking care of ourselves a lot better than we did when we were 20.
Well, and John, when you get to be my age, I just had a friend of mine who I went to high school with. He was 58 years old. He had a massive stroke just last week, and he died. Just a huge shock to everybody. Seemingly otherwise, fairly healthy guy. He was a little overweight, but he had a stroke, and that was it. And it can happen to anybody. But the better, conditioned you are, the more fit you are, the better you eat, the healthier lifestyle you live, the better your chances are that you're going to live and be healthy, right? So those are the kind of things I want to talk about at Mobile Beat.
Nice.
And I have you'd asked me earlier if I'd been to Mobile Beat before.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That was my direction because I wanted to tie it into the books and such.
Yeah. So I attended Mobile Beat, I think, for the first time in 2005. I was mentioning I didn't know a soul except a guy named Peter Mary, who I'd met at another conference. And Peter very graciously introduced me around to a whole bunch of people. And it was a great experience. So the next year, I asked Ryan if he'd be interested in having me talk about emceeing a wedding. And based on my experience in emceeing weddings as, an amateur MC in Canada and a guy who wrote a book about it. So I did that, and it went over well. Had some technical problems, believe it or not, then as well. I think it's the gleam off my head or something that does something to the technology. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I've spoken at Mobile Beat numerous times. I've done the Mobile Beat tours as well with Jake Feldman.
Yeah.
Had a chance to tour around the country. Love that. But I have to say, I spoke last year at the Mobile Beat in Las Vegas, and it was the best show that I've been to yet. The production quality was just absolutely first class. The lighting, the sound, the acoustics, even the green room that they set up actually had refreshments in it, and
Yes.
somebody to show you to the stage and walk-up music and all these things that were really terrific. So I my hat's off to Ryan and Jake and the whole crew who puts that show together. It's always fun to be there.
Yeah, it definitely is a good time. Let's dig a little bit into now. You've written 2 books then that I'm thinking 2 books that I know of. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's start with the Wedding Toast book.
Yeah, so the Wedding Toast book actually came out of the Wedding MC book. What happened, John, was I emceed a bunch of weddings in Canada in my youth, in my 20s and 30s. And in Canada, we have a tradition where it's, at least it used to be, it's not maybe so much anymore, but it used to be that the best man, a friend of the family, a family member would typically MC the wedding. Right? It would be fairly informal and casual, but somebody would stand up and kind of, lead people through the event. So I got asked to do that quite a bit. I was working in radio, at the time, and I'd had some experience public speaking. So I started doing it. I made lots of mistakes, but I got pretty good at it. And then my own wedding, asked a good friend of mine to MC the wedding, and it was really, unfortunately, very bad.
Oh no!
It was just bad. And I wish I'd had something to have given him to help him through that. And that's really where I got the idea to write this little book for people asked to MC a wedding. And it took off. I printed 5,000 copies and put an ad in the back of a bridal magazine in Canada. And I sold out that first run within, about 18 months.
Ooh, wow.
And and so thought, maybe I'm on to something. And I did another run and started, speaking around the country in Canada. And the books took off. And I decided to try my luck in the U.S. market. Came down south with the Wedding MC book. And, the DJs loved it in Las Vegas and places, right? Because it was up their alley.
Right.
But people in America didn't really understand this notion that the best man or somebody would MC the wedding, because typically it's, professionals that were doing it.
Yes, exactly.
So I thought, I got a good thing here, but maybe I could just kind of tweak it a little bit. So the Wedding Toast Made Easy book is really kind of the U.S. version of Wedding Toast Made, of the Wedding MC book, right? It's a similar kind of style. They're both dealing with, presentation and public speaking and how to deal with all that stuff, right? So, the books have done well. They sold well. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've been able to go speak all over the place, do radio appearances, media appearances all over the place, and it's been fun.
We've got a little bit of time left here, Tom. if there's a common question or problem that DJs present to you that are asking you basically, how can I fix this? Let's talk about a couple of those common problems that you've heard from DJs over the years that were the areas in which they struggle.
DJs in terms of emceeing weddings?
Emceeing weddings, correct, yes.
Yeah. Well, what I see is a lot of guys come out of the club background, right? They've been a DJ at a club and they know how to mix and they know how to, do that part of it very effectively. But when it comes time to actually address an audience and lead an audience through a more formal kind of reception, they often struggle a bit. And so I should mention, my background is in the PR business. I've run a PR business for over 30 years in Canada. So putting events together, whether it's grand openings or, special events, things like that, I've done a lot of that over the years. And so I called upon that sort of background in event management. And I learned very early the value of putting an event agenda together and really building around that, right? Yeah. And I've learned the value of attention to details and really planning things out and doing the work, doing the homework in advance. And so I think that, if there's a common theme in both the Wedding MC book and Wedding Toast Made Easy, it is that notion of needing to really be prepared, yes. Right? Because, whether it's emceeing a wedding or whether it's just making a wedding toast, it does take some planning and preparation and rehearsal and kind of knowing what you're going to say and being ready to do that. So I think that a lot of DJs coming into the business often struggle with that. I've encouraged them to get experience, as I did, in doing a public speaking course, doing Toastmasters, getting in front of an audience and getting comfortable with that. That can go a long ways. And go ahead.
Yeah, I think one area in which you mentioned the idea, you mentioned in their practice, where they need to be practicing when they need to be prepared and having kind of what they want to say. And then they need to be practicing what they're going to say it and how they're going to say it. Right. I've had numerous DJs that I've talked to, and it's like, okay, so you're going to be working. Someone mentioned that an introduction of the couple is very difficult, and it can be. And I had one we were on the phone and we were talking about that, and I had asked him, okay, tell me what are you going to say? Do it for me. And he did. Well, I'm going to say something to the effect of, ladies and gentlemen, here is Bob and Sue Jones, and welcome to the room tonight. It's like, right. Really, that's what you're going to say it. I want you to practice. I want you to do it like you're going to do it, because until you do it like you're going to do it, and you do it with the energy and the enthusiasm, and if that means that you need to put music on in the background, you do it. But you need to be practicing it as close to the live situation as possible. And I think that sometimes as DJs, I don't know if we're embarrassed about doing things like that, or if we think we don't need to be practicing. But for those of you who've seen my little studio over there, part of what I do is practicing mixing over there, which is, thank you, MJ, for getting me going on that. The second part, and I've done this over the years, is I will put on the introduction music and I will practice reading the wedding party names with the music behind, because it's different doing a cold read with no music in the background compared to a read with the music going in the background. There's an energy that you don't have. So critical, so critical. Yeah,
so preparation is everything. And, I've really been impressed with some of the trainers down your way, guys like Bill Herman, Randy Bartlett, Mark Farrell. They all do some amazing work with helping MCs really hone their craft, right? And the more experience they can get, the more comfort level they can build in working with audience, the better. It's the same with making a wedding toast. People often ask me, like, what is the biggest mistake people make when they're asked to make a wedding toast? Right. And I, in my view, the most common mistake that they make is they just simply don't take the role seriously enough, and they don't prepare for it. Right? If you're asked to be the best man or the maid of honor, or your son or daughter is getting married, you're going to say something at the wedding, it really does behoove you to spend some time in advance and prepare yourself. So often people don't do that. I'm sure you've seen that, John, where right. People show up on the day of the wedding. They've suddenly realized they have to speak to 300 or 400 people. Yeah. Oh my gosh. They're totally freaked out about it. They maybe scribble down some notes on the back of a napkin, or they don't at all, and they think they're going to stand up and wing it in front of an audience for the first time and use a microphone for the first time, and they don't really know what they're doing. So my book is really predicated on walking people through what they need to do. And it starts with, making some notes. If people need to actually write out a speech, I encourage them to do that. But I often encourage people to take that written speech and break it down into point form notes. Instead of reading it word for word, if they just use trigger point form notes to kind of walk them through a bit of an outline, they will speak more naturally. And, it's important that people have some kind of a theme for their speech as well. So, it could be how the bride and groom met, growing up with my brother, the groom, some kind of a theme to kind of bond it all together, to bring it all together. I encourage people to rehearse their presentation in advance. And I talk about in the book, great places to rehearse, whether it's the shower, whether it's driving to work in your car. A great place to rehearse, and I'm sure you've seen this, is in the venue where you're going to, do the presentation, where you're going to do the speech. If you can get in there in advance and work with a DJ and actually have some experience working with a mic, I think DJs that work with couples and their speakers in terms of giving them that opportunity, on the day of the wedding, come in a bit early. Let's get you on the mic. Let's get you comfortable with that. Let's show you where you're going to stand. This is where you're going to be in the agenda itself. The more you can prepare them, the better, right?
Yeah, and that's a huge thing when it comes to working with couples. Some of us are now able to go to the practice the night before and be a part of that event. It's such a great time to kind of walk through some things with them when it comes to microphones, showing them how to hold it, how to turn it on. Giving them some ideas for the ones who, there's obviously probably the bridesmaid who has hers all written out, and the best man who's got like, okay, I got like these three words I want to make sure I don't, and that's his. So there's time to work with them and really get it so that they come Saturday afternoon when they're doing their things, that the guests are going to be wowed instead of like, oh, well, there was a forgettable moment.
Yeah. And it's things like, how long should people speak for, right? I always recommend somewhere between maybe 3 to 4 minutes tops. Yeah. You can say a lot in 3 or 4 minutes. People need to really get a feel for what 3 to 4 minutes is. So hence the rehearsal part, right? Because what you write out versus what comes off the page and the time it takes to deliver it can be two different things. Another mistake people make very often is, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, it's the liquid courage syndrome. They're nervous and they think, well, I'll have a glass of wine or a shot, and they wind up having a couple of glasses of wine and a couple of shots, and then they get a little tipsy, say things they shouldn't. And that's another common thing, people saying things thinking they're funny, but they're not. You don't have to be funny in making a wedding toast. You can be very sincere and say it from the heart and win over your audience that way. If you are funny and it's tasteful, it's not going to offend your grandmother, then sure, have some fun with it.
But not everyone's a comedian.
No, exactly. So, and then the other thing, dealing with your nerves can be a big issue. And I can relate to people who have a fear of public speaking. I was deadly afraid of public speaking as a kid. And I kind of started on this route as a 15-year-old. I was asked to be the best man at my brother's wedding.
Oh.
And I knew I was going to have to say a little toast. And I was so nervous about that. It was ridiculous. So when I finally did, I really kind of blew it. I forgot the name of the bride. And it was embarrassing. I did a public speaking course when I was like 19 years old, and it made all the difference for me in terms of developing a comfort level with speaking. So a lot of people just don't have that. And, public speaking is the greatest fear of the greatest number of people. So I relate to people who struggle with it. And the more that DJs, wedding professionals, can do to help people through that process by preparing them, by working with them, by showing them how to, use the microphone, by giving them encouragement, trying to kind of keep them on track in terms of, write some notes, be prepared. Buy Tom's book. That's always a good strategy. The better they look, right? When the speakers are good, when the toasts are good, when people have a good time, it reflects well on everyone, right?
For sure.
So I think it behooves wedding professionals to help people through that process.
Yeah, good stuff. Tom, one more time, the titles of the book and where can people pick those up?
The titles are The Wedding MC and Wedding Toast Made Easy. And here I am talking to you, and I can't even tell you where people can buy them right now because we're going through a bit of a revision on both of them. But I hope to have Wedding Toast Made Easy ready for Mobile Beat.
Okay.
A new, improved version. And we're going to do an electronic version that'll be available on Kindle. And I hope to make a special offer available to wedding professionals at that point.
Well, we will keep our eyes open then, and once those are available, we can get that help get that word out.
Thank you.
So Eric was
John.
just asking about that just as we were talking about it. So we will.
Is that Eric in Calgary?
What's that?
Is that Eric in Calgary?
No, he's Florida.
Oh, Florida. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, a good giveaway. Yeah, and I at one of the shows I remember we were talking. I picked up a couple of your books, Tom, on the wedding MC, and right. I gave them to a couple of DJ friends of mine, and then I think another friend of mine had picked up some of the toast ones and actually gave that to a couple of people with wedding parties. So yeah, I definitely think they would definitely be a good idea. So. Good. Well, Tom, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you much for being on. If people would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So the best way is just follow me on Facebook. Tom Haibeck on Facebook. It's Haibeck. I'm trying not to rant too much about my politics anymore. Now that the election's over, I promise not to do that. And I will have some news coming up about the books and other things I'm working on. So that's probably the best way to follow me at this point. Tom at Haibeck on Facebook. That
sounds great. You guys can go check that out. We're going to wrap things up. Thank you, Tom. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with our final show for tonight. That, if you do a refresh, it's now in the description of this video because I finally got things fixed there. So, all right. Thank you once again, Tom, and we will catch you at Mobile Beat.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. All right. Bye-bye.